Good evening, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com. Live at the Call Center here in Madison, Wisconsin, where Purdue just beat Wisconsin, number 6 Wisconsin, 75-69. That's number 2 Purdue over number 6 Wisconsin. I'm going to mention the opponent's ranking. I probably ought to mention Purdue's. This is your goldenblack.com rap video. It's brought to you by our friends at the Purdue Club Hotel. As always, thank you to them for their support. This is going to be relatively quick, not because I don't have a lot to talk about, but because I've had to go to the bathroom for about an hour. And I keep saying to myself, I'm going to just do one more thing, and then I will get up and go to the bathroom. So this is that one more thing. So Purdue moves into first place in the Big Ten. I don't think that should surprise anyone, but after Purdue went 2 games in the hole with the losses at Northwestern and Nebraska, the race was on, and I think it was just a matter of time before Purdue overtook everyone else before or after falling in that initial hole, and today I guess was kind of the day. Now Purdue does still have games left with Illinois and Wisconsin. Illinois on the road, Wisconsin at home, so assuming things stay static in terms of those top 3 at the top of the league, which obviously is never guaranteed, I think Purdue's put itself in a pretty good spot here, in addition to being the best team in the league by a fairly wide margin, I'd have to say. The one thing you've seen here lately is Purdue kind of show a bit of a winning/survival instinct. I think that's maturity showing up. I think it's experience showing up. They were really pushed in the second half at Rutgers. That crowd got into it. They were obviously really pushed by Northwestern. Very easily could have lost that game, arguably should have lost that game. I'm not making that argument, but you could make that argument. And then here today, I thought Purdue was in control as soon as they ended the first half strong, but nevertheless, this is never an easy place to play. Purdue had to hold them off the whole second half and did everything it needed to do to hold them off, never relinquish that lead they picked up there in the first half. So I think you're seeing a lot of maturity. I think you're seeing the benefits of experience, and you're seeing what I've been talking about all along, that this team is so much better positioned to do things, big things, than last year's team was, because I think you see the value of experience, especially in the backcourt here. Now, the one thing I will say about this game is atypically, Purdue did have some margin for error in this game because Wisconsin is not typical Wisconsin. They play way too much hero ball offensively. They're not the team that never turns the ball over. Things like that. That's what's always made them such a vice to stick your head in when you have to play them here. They just never turn the ball over. They never beat themselves. This Wisconsin team beats itself. They took a lot of horrible shots by Wisconsin standards. They did turn the ball over a little bit. Not really, though. Never mind. Five turnovers is not all that many, obviously, but it just felt like there were more turnovers than that. But the bad shots were what I was really getting at there. I think they took a lot of hero ball threes. They were 3 of 19 from 3. And that afforded Purdue some margin for error. That afforded Purdue the opportunity, I guess would be the word, the cushion, the margin for error is the best way to put it, to turn the ball over too much early in the game and get away with it. Purdue was able to piece together a run there in the first half to kind of seize control of this game. As I mentioned before, never really let it go. I think Braden Smith was the driving force behind that first half run. When he's making jumpers, he is scary as hell for opponents. And when he's making jumpers, then everything else is going to change for Purdue offensively thereafter. And I think you saw that in the second half. Really big-time first half for Braden Smith, obviously, and that got Ross-Ade loose a little bit in the second half. We've seen that before. We saw that against Northwestern just a couple of days ago, that the two halves can be very different, in large part because of how Braden Smith is handling how Purdue's being guarded. When you're playing drop coverage on him and he's pulling up and making those jumpers, you got to get out of it because he will kill you. He'll get 30. He's never gotten 30, but he can get 30. I don't know what he had in the first half, but he was the difference in the game, clearly. The difference in the game, aside from what I've already discussed, I just can't say anything more about Lance Jones at this point. I think I think it's very reasonable to say that he was brought in to be a complement to Purdue's big three players. That would be Ross-Ade, obviously Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer. He has made the big three a big four because he has just been phenomenal this season in a very different way than I think Purdue figured it would need him to be phenomenal. I think he was going to be a complementary scorer, an opportunist, a transition element, and a defender. And instead, he has become an all Big Ten level player at both ends of the floor. And I just think you can't, for as much as Purdue is not building through the portal, and for as much as Purdue is not going to look for its best players every year in the portal, this just worked out in such a way where Purdue has one of its best players via the portal. And I don't think that was by design. I think that was by just sheer happenstance. Lance Jones has been a godsend for this team. I think there is a fine line he is walking between a big-time aggressiveness, feeling it, so to speak, and, making the right decision at the right time. But it's one of those situations where you're kind of riding the lightning. And it's working out in a big way here for Purdue because the shots he made, the plays he made in that second half were absolutely instrumental to this win. That leaning three he made on the move was one of those no, yes kind of plays for Purdue. I know I really do a good job faking that enthusiasm. But just big-time shots he made. Once again, he's been doing it all year. And there's no reason to think he's going to stop now. Just cannot say enough about what he's meant to this Purdue team. You could make the argument, and this is an argument that I will make, if you could take Trey Kaufman-Wren and Mason Gillis and mash them into one player, this would be some sort of weird science experiment, probably the start of a horror movie. If you could take those two and you could make them one player, Purdue would have 5 All-Big Ten players starting for it right now because Braden Smith, Ross-Ade, Fletcher Lawyer, and Lance Jones are all Big Ten caliber guys. If you could just smash those other two into one guy, you'd have 5 guys, not the hamburger place. Anyway, I just think Lance Jones has been an absolute revelation for Purdue, both ends of the floor. And I don't think anybody was seeing that coming. You had a guy who was a leading scorer at Southern Illinois. Again, you didn't recruit him to do that. He had to fit into something different at Purdue, playing on an already established borderline elite team. And there's nothing he hasn't done for this team. He has delivered in every way, shape, and form every time there's been a delivery to be made. Is that the right way to put that? If it's not, hopefully you know what I mean. Just a great win for Purdue, obviously. As I mentioned before, you always kind of figured that Purdue, with those 2 early road losses, was kind of giving the field a couple strokes to start, kind of a handicap. And it wouldn't be long before Purdue got hot, got on a winning streak, and kind of overtook everybody. The winning streak up until this game, was maybe a little bit cosmetic because I don't know if you've noticed or not, but the Big Ten's not very good outside the outside of the top 3 teams. And so the winning streak for Purdue coming into this ever since Nebraska, I think probably required a little bit of validation. I don't know why. I don't know who would require it. I don't know who I'm actually talking to saying this requires this to be validated in someone's eyes. But when you look at who Purdue's beaten during the winning streak ever since Nebraska, there have been road wins. Road wins are always good, but Iowa's not good. Rutgers isn't good. Who's the other one? Indiana's obviously not good. Beating Michigan at home is something. Northwestern's a good team. That was obviously a battle royal that could have gone either way at the very end. And it was a home game. So Purdue coming on the road to beat a team that got up to number 6 in the AP poll. Is Wisconsin the 6th best team in the country? They are not. But it doesn't matter. They achieved to the extent that they got up to number 6 in the poll. Obviously, they were in first place in the Big Ten for the longest time. This was the win that, sort of officially makes Purdue red hot as opposed to just being better than most everybody in the Big Ten. Everybody in the Big Ten, I should say. So this was a really good win for Purdue, obviously. A good resume win. Because the Big Ten this year does not afford you many opportunities to get big-time road wins. This is really the one. This one, you don't go to Michigan State. You went to Maryland already. That wasn't a quad win at the time. You might get a backdoor cover there if Maryland keeps winning games in terms of quad one. Indiana is not a quad one win. Rutgers is not a quad one win. How many years in the Big Ten can you say this? Can you go to Indiana? Can you go to Maryland? Can you go to Rutgers? Win at all those places and not get a quad one win out of it. Purdue will have another opportunity at Illinois. They should stay in that quad one strata without question. Other than that, there's really two opportunities on this whole schedule at the time of the games being played for quad one road wins. And I don't think Purdue has any real gaps to fill in its resume. But if for some reason things tail off a little bit for Purdue, somebody else gets hot, and maybe there's a 1A, 1B for that top overall seed, they look for whatever they can look to differentiate between 1A and 1B, and big-time road wins, would sometimes be that tiebreaker. So this could ripple to Selection Sunday. Purdue's obviously in a great spot here. They're going to close the season strong. I don't think there's any question about that. I think the game at Illinois is still the one you obviously have to circle on the calendar, but Purdue's not going to lose at home to anybody they got left on the schedule, and Purdue shouldn't have any trouble with Michigan. That said, it is still the Big Ten. Crazy things do happen, but crazy things haven't happened to Purdue because I think Purdue is good enough to be relatively crazy-proof this particular season. Now, the Nebraska thing, obviously Nebraska's good. I think the two things that have come to light here, Purdue's two road losses, the Northwestern loss being incredibly narrow, obviously a game Purdue very easily could have won the same way Northwestern could have very easily won at Purdue. Those are two decent losses now because Northwestern's proven itself to be good, Nebraska's proven itself to be an NCAA tournament team, and those are both very forgivable. So, Purdue's been in a good spot all along. Purdue's in a better spot today than it was yesterday. And Purdue is in first place in the Big Ten. It would be a real shame for Purdue to have a team like this in a season like this and not come away with the Big Ten championship. And I figured all along, as I said before, Purdue eventually would, the proverbial cream would rise to the top. And maybe today was the day the cream rose to the top. That's what I got. That's really, really good. Man, that is some brilliant punditry right there. That's what I got from Purdue's 75-69 win at number 6 Wisconsin. Number 2 Purdue's 75-69 win over Wisconsin. Got to remember to put the ranking in both places because it sounds like I'm BSing you when I say that I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening, and thank you for processing our materials, however it is you process our materials. And thank you once again to the Purdue Club Hotel. We're eagerly awaiting the opening of your Madison, Wisconsin location so that I can stay there next time I come here. So thank you, everybody.